Listen to me. There is one word, just one, that flips the power dynamic instantly. It's not loud, it's not aggressive, it's subtle. And because it's subtle, it's dangerous. That word, enough, when you use it, you send a silent shockwave. You draw the line, you define the boundary, you stop whatever emotional game is playing out dead in its tracks. Why does this work? Because most people live for more attention, more validation, more of you. When you calmly say enough, you break the pattern. You refuse to feed the craving. Here's the secret. Control is never about overpowering someone physically or shouting the loudest. Control is about making them adjust to your rhythm. The moment you say enough, you shift their focus from taking to wondering why you stopped, wondering what you're thinking, wondering if they've lost you. It's not the word alone, it's the delivery. Say it slowly, steady voice, no explanation.
You don't justify.
You don't defend, you just stop. This is where most people fail. They over-explain, they soften the blow, they give the other person an easy way back in. No, the power is in the silence that follows. Enough tells them, you're not afraid to walk away.
You don't chase.
You value yourself above the moment. And that's when the shift happens. They start chasing you. They start questioning themselves. They start wondering what they did wrong. Remember this, if you never control the pace, you will never control the outcome. So here's my challenge for you. The next time someone pushes you past your comfort zone, when they try to get more than they've earned, don't argue, don't react. Just look them in the eye and say, enough, and watch how the entire dynamic changes in your favor. You think power in a relationship comes from giving more of your time, more of your attention, more of your body, more of your emotions. But the truth is, the deepest control, the most intoxicating influence you can have over someone comes from restraint. It's not about holding back out of fear. It's about holding back because you choose to. That choice sends a message louder than any words ever could. In intimacy, most people are conditioned to believe that closeness is created by constant giving, constant affection, constant availability, constant yes. But the reality is desire doesn't thrive on constant access. It thrives on tension, on space, on the pull between what is given and what is withheld. The most magnetic moments happen when you give just enough to spark fire, but not so much that the fire burns out. Think about it. If someone knows they can have all of you whenever they want, emotionally, physically, mentally, they stop working for it. They stop valuing it. Humans are wired to crave what feels scarce, to cherish what feels earned. And in the space between what you give and what you hold back, that craving grows. That's where attraction deepens, where the imagination starts running wild, where they begin to obsess about the parts of you they can't quite reach. Restraint in intimacy is not about rejection. It's about timing. It's about creating moments of deliberate pause where your energy shifts from giving to simply being. When you hold someone in your arms and then stop right before the point where they expect you to continue, their mind starts racing. They wonder why you stopped. They wonder what you're thinking. They wonder if they've lost their touch. That wondering is where your influence takes root. It's where they start chasing, not just your body, but your mind, your approval, your emotional presence. In a relationship, this kind of restraint plays out in countless subtle ways. You don't reply to every text instantly, not because you're playing childish games, but because you have a life, because you're not waiting by the phone, because your value isn't tied to constant validation. You don't share every thought you have, every feeling you feel, every detail of your day, because mystery keeps the connection alive. You don't always say yes when they want your time or attention, because your boundaries are not negotiable. And in intimacy, the effect is even stronger. When you slow the pace instead of rushing to the finish line, you take control of the entire experience. You decide when to give, how much to give, and when to stop. That pause creates a pull so strong it's almost electric. They'll think about it long after the moment passes. They'll remember the way you looked at them right before pulling away. They'll replay it in their head, trying to understand why they suddenly want you more than they did just seconds before. Most people think seduction is about doing more touches, more words, more time. But the truth is, the most unforgettable experiences are often defined by the moments you don't give in. When you hold back, you give them space to crave, to long, to hunger. And hunger is the heartbeat of desire. Restraint creates imbalance in the best way possible. They lean forward while you lean back. They give while you receive. They reach while you retreat, just far enough to make them reach again. That rhythm is intoxicating, addictive, and entirely under your control. You are not denying connection. You are designing it. You are shaping the pace, the depth, and the intensity of every interaction, every touch, every glance. This is the kind of control that doesn't feel like control to them. They won't call it restraint. They'll call it mystery, passion, chemistry. They'll say, you're different, that there's something about you they can't explain, something they can't get enough of. But you'll know the truth. You didn't give them everything at once. You gave them just enough to want more. And in that wanting, you became unforgettable. There's a reason the most unforgettable people in relationships are the ones who hold their ground, the ones who don't just open every door into their life for anyone who knocks. The ones who have standards, not the kind they speak about casually, but the kind they enforce without hesitation. And in intimacy, that enforcement isn't cold, it's magnetic. Boundaries are not walls meant to push someone away. They are invisible lines that pull the right people closer while keeping the wrong ones at a distance. They're the silent signal that says I'm valuable and not everyone gets full access to me. In the heat of a relationship, it's easy to think that giving someone endless access is proof of love or attraction. You think, if I let them in completely, they'll feel secure. But the truth is, when you remove all limits, you remove the chase. When you remove the chase, you remove the thrill. And without that thrill, intimacy becomes routine, predictable, forgettable. The most powerful relationships keep an undercurrent of mystery alive, and boundaries are the frame that holds that mystery in place. When you have boundaries, you don't respond to every demand just because it's asked of you. You don't rearrange your life to accommodate someone's last-minute whim. You don't allow anyone to speak to you in a way that diminishes you, even if you're physically close to them. And here's the twist. These boundaries don't just protect your dignity, they heighten desire, because the moment someone realizes they can't cross certain lines with you, they also realize you're not dependent on them for your worth. That's when they start to see you differently. That's when the respect deepens, and respect is the foundation of the most intoxicating kind of intimacy. Picture this. You're with someone, the air between you, heavy with tension, their hand reaching for you in a moment of passion. But instead of rushing into the moment, you slow it down. You say with your eyes or even your words, not yet. That pause is a boundary, not a rejection, not a denial, but a declaration. I decide when, I decide how, and I decide why. That control over your own body, your own energy, your own emotions. It's irresistible because it tells them you're not driven by impulse, you're driven by choice. Boundaries are also deeply tied to emotional intimacy. You don't allow conversations that disrespect your feelings. You don't tolerate silent treatments or manipulation. You won't let someone's bad day become an excuse to unload cruelty onto you. And when you enforce these rules, something fascinating happens. They start to lean into you, not away from you. Why? Because boundaries make people feel safe. They create a structure where passion can burn without consuming everything around it. Without boundaries, the fire of intimacy either dies out or burns you alive. With boundaries, it stays controlled, glowing, intense. And it's not just about saying no, it's about saying yes with intention. When you have clear limits, your moments of openness mean more. When you do let them in, physically or emotionally, it feels like a privilege, not a routine. They understand, whether consciously or not, that your vulnerability is earned, not owed. And anything earned becomes infinitely more valuable. The real magic of boundaries and intimacy is how they flip the dynamic. Without them, you're at the mercy of someone else's moods, wants, and whims. With them, you set the tone. You decide the pace. You decide when to let the tension rise and when to release it. That's not withholding. That's mastery. That's how you create an environment where passion isn't just a spark, it's a controlled blaze that keeps burning without burning out. There's a reason the most seductive moments in a relationship are the ones you can't fully explain, the ones where you're left wondering, what are they thinking? What are they feeling? What are they not telling me? That's the power of mystery. It doesn't just attract, it consumes. And when it comes to intimacy, mystery is the difference between a moment they enjoy and a moment they can't stop replaying in their mind. Most people believe that closeness means revealing everything, every detail, every thought, every piece of themselves. But too much exposure too soon can kill desire faster than any mistake. Desire thrives in the unknown. It's not about lying or hiding. It's about revealing yourself slowly, intentionally, so that each layer feels like a discovery rather than a given. In relationships, the ones who master this are unforgettable because they never stop surprising you. You can be with them for years and still feel like there are corners of their mind you haven't explored yet. In intimacy, mystery is even more potent. Imagine a touch that lingers for just a second too short, a glance that holds something unspoken, a smile that hints at secrets you're not ready to share yet. Those moments aren't accidental, they're crafted. They're the moments that make someone's pulse quicken without understanding why, because the human mind is wired to chase completion. When you leave something unfinished, they can't help but want to close the gap. That's when they lean in, when they pursue, when they give more of themselves just to pull a little more from you. Mystery also changes the power dynamic. When you're an open book, they stop reading because they already know the ending. But when your pages turn slowly, they're hooked. They read carefully, searching for meaning in every word, every gesture. And here's the truth. Mystery isn't about playing games or pretending to be someone you're not. It's about understanding that intimacy isn't just physical, it's mental. You're not just touching their body, you're engaging their curiosity, their imagination, their hunger for more. Think about the times you've been most drawn to someone. It wasn't because they gave you everything instantly. It was because they left you wondering, because their words hinted at more than they said, because their actions left space for your mind to wander. That space is where desire grows. And in intimacy, the mind is just as important as the body. You can touch someone's skin and it will fade from memory, but if you touch their thoughts, if you plant images and feelings they can't shake, you stay with them long after you're gone. Even in long-term relationships, mystery keeps passion alive. Too many couples lose it because they think familiarity is the same as closeness. But familiarity without intrigue becomes monotony. You have to keep certain parts of yourself in reserve, not because you're hiding, but because you're letting them earn it. You reveal your thoughts, your fantasies, your vulnerabilities at a pace that keeps their curiosity burning. And when you finally open that door, it feels like a reward, not an expectation. In physical intimacy, mystery means you don't rush. You let moments build. You break the pattern. You stop before they expect you to stop. You change the rhythm before they can anticipate it. You leave them wondering what you'll do next. The unpredictability isn't frustrating, it's addictive. Because the unknown keeps them present. It makes them pay attention. It makes them feel. This is why mystery is more seductive than constant availability. Availability says, you can have me whenever you want. Mystery says, you can have me, but only when I choose. And when you do, it will be worth it. And that difference is everything in attraction, because it shifts the value of every moment, every word, every touch.
Pace is everything.
In a relationship, in intimacy, in seduction, whoever controls the pace controls the connection. Most people rush. They rush into conversations, rush into vulnerability, rush into physical closeness, thinking speed will get them more. But speed is the enemy of depth. If you want to be unforgettable, you have to understand the art of slowing things down, of setting the rhythm so they move in your time, not theirs. That's where the real power lies. Think about music. When it's too fast, you can't feel it. When it's too slow, you lose interest. But the right pace draws you in. It makes you sway, makes you breathe with it, makes you feel like every beat is deliberate. Relationships work the same way. If you rush into revealing everything, your heart, your body, your thoughts, you give it all away before they've earned it. But when you pace the experience, when you give them pieces instead of the whole, each piece becomes more valuable. They lean in, waiting for the next note, the next touch, the next word. In intimacy, controlling the pace is intoxicating. Imagine someone expecting you to move quickly, to follow the same script they've known with others, but you don't. You pause when they expect you to continue. You change the rhythm just as they think they've figured you out. That pause, that deliberate slowdown forces them to focus. It takes them out of autopilot and makes them present in the moment with you. And when someone is truly present, the connection deepens beyond the surface. Slowing the pace isn't about withholding, it's about amplifying. When you stretch out a moment, when you let silence hang between you, when you allow the tension to build without rushing to release it, you heighten every sense. A simple touch feels electric because it's not just touch, it's the climax of a slow build. A glance across the room feels like a spark because you didn't give it right away, you let the anticipation grow. Even emotionally, pace changes everything. If you open up too quickly, they might appreciate it, but they won't crave it. Craving comes from having to wait. When you share your feelings gradually, when you allow them to see deeper layers over time, they don't just get to know you, they work for the privilege of knowing you. That effort bonds them to you. It makes them feel invested. An investment in relationships is a form of desire. When you control the pace, you control the timing of intensity. You can slow down to make them yearn for more, or you can speed up at the exact moment you know they're ready, catching them off guard in the best way. That unpredictability makes the experience unforgettable, because you're not following a predictable rhythm, they are adjusting to yours. And in that adjustment, they surrender a little control without even realizing it. The truth is, most people have never experienced someone who truly sets the pace. They're used to interactions dictated by impulse, by convenience, by habit. But when you step into a moment and own the tempo, whether it's a deep conversation, a lingering kiss, or the slow burn of a hand moving across their skin, you create an entirely different experience. You make them notice details they would have missed if it had happened too fast. You make them feel emotions they didn't expect to feel. And here's the most powerful part. Once someone has felt the effect of your pace, once they've experienced the way you can stretch time and make moments feel richer, they can't forget it. They'll feel other connections as rushed, other moments as shallow, other touches as empty, because no one else made them feel like you did. Calm, yet on edge, waiting, yet satisfied, unsure, yet completely hooked. Silence is one of the most underestimated forces in both relationships and intimacy. People are so quick to fill the air with words, to explain, to justify, to react, as if every gap in conversation is a threat. But in truth, silence when used with intention isn't a void, it's a weapon, it's a magnet. It's the moment that makes them lean forward, searching your face, your eyes, your body language, trying to read what you're not saying. And that curiosity, that tension, is where desire grows. In relationships, most people fear silence because they think it means distance. They think it's cold, detached, or disinterested. But when you're grounded, when you know your worth, silence becomes a statement. I don't need to over-explain myself. I don't need to convince you. I don't need to rush to fill the space. That kind of calm confidence is rare and deeply attractive. It makes the other person slow down, pay attention, and wonder what's going on beneath the surface. In intimacy, silence is even more powerful. Imagine being close to someone, feeling their breath, their warmth, and instead of filling the moment with constant talking or frantic movement, you let the quiet wrap around both of you. You hold their gaze without a single word. You pause your touch just long enough for them to notice the absence and to crave the return. That pause is not empty. It's loaded. It's the unspoken message that says, I'm in control of this moment. I decide when it moves forward. Silence changes the pace, but it also changes perception. When you stop speaking, you give them space to project their own thoughts, fantasies, and emotions into the gap. Suddenly, they're not just reacting to you, they're engaging with their own desire. They're imagining what you might do next. They're wondering what's on your mind. And that wondering is addictive. People remember how you made them feel, and nothing lingers longer than the unanswered question. Even in conflict or emotional moments, silence can be disarming. When someone expects you to fight, to argue, to defend yourself, and instead you respond with steady eyes and no words, you break their rhythm. You take away the energy they were feeding on, and you force them to reevaluate. It's not passive, it's strategic. You're making them come to you, making them work harder to get a reaction, making them realize that your attention and your words are not given lightly. In romantic connection, the right kind of silence builds intensity faster than any rushed declaration. You can be inches away, your fingers barely touching, and say absolutely nothing. But in that stillness, the pull between you becomes almost unbearable. The lack of sound sharpens every other sense. You feel their heartbeat, you smell their skin, you see the smallest flicker in their eyes. And because you're not rushing to speak or act, every movement, every word that eventually follows, hits harder. Silence also gives you control over timing. You can pause right before the moment they expect, hold back when the tension is at its peak, and watch as they become almost desperate for what's next. That anticipation is the lifeblood of passion. Because passion isn't just about what's happening, it's about what's about to happen, what's being held just out of reach. The most captivating people aren't the ones who give constant noise or constant motion. They're the ones who know when to pull back, when to let the quiet do the talking. Silence, when used intentionally, isn't absence, it's presence in its purest form. It's the kind of presence that makes them hang on your every move, your every glance, your every choice, because they can feel that something is coming, and the not knowing is driving them wild. Self-value is the foundation of every powerful relationship and every unforgettable intimate connection. It's the invisible aura that surrounds you, the unshakable truth you carry in your body language, your tone, your choices. It's not arrogance, and it's not about thinking you're better than anyone. It's about knowing without question that you are worthy of respect, of desire, of effort. And when you live from that place, you become magnetic. People can sense it before you even speak. In relationships, self-value shapes every interaction. When you know your worth, you don't chase anyone's attention, you attract it. You're not desperate for validation because you already validate yourself. That's when the dynamic shifts. People aren't drawn to you because you beg for their presence. They're drawn because they feel the privilege of having yours. You stop over-giving in the hope that they'll stay, because you understand that anyone who truly deserves you will choose to stay. In intimacy, self-value is even more potent. Imagine being close to someone, the air heavy with chemistry, and instead of rushing to please, you move with a calm assurance, as if to say, I am here because I choose to be, not because I need to be. That subtle difference changes everything. It tells them you're not there out of insecurity or obligation. You're there out of genuine desire, and people can feel that difference. Desire that comes from choice is intoxicating. When you carry self-value, you set the standard for how you're treated. You don't have to shout it. You don't have to make threats. You simply live it. If someone speaks to you in a way that crosses a line, you step back. If someone fails to respect your boundaries, you remove your energy. If someone wants to be close to you, emotionally or physically, they have to meet the level of respect and effort you naturally expect. And here's the secret. The moment you stop tolerating less than you deserve, you start attracting people who are capable of giving more. Self-value also changes the way you give in relationships. You don't pour yourself out until you're empty, hoping someone will notice. Instead, you give from overflow. You give because you want to, not because you're trying to earn approval. That difference is felt deeply by the other person. They know they're with someone who has their own center, their own sense of self, their own life beyond the relationship. And that independence is wildly attractive because it means you're with them by choice, not by need. In the most intimate moments, self-value is the silent energy that keeps the power balanced. You don't lose yourself in the heat of the connection. You remain aware of your own presence, your own needs, your own pleasure. You don't give all the control away. You share it. You're not there to be consumed. You're there to create an experience, and your awareness of your worth makes that experience richer for both of you. People who lack self-value often overcompensate. They over-explain, overperform, overpromise, but someone who truly knows their worth can be still, can be quiet, can simply exist in the moment without proving anything. That calm confidence draws the other person in because they feel they're with someone who can't be shaken, someone whose attention is precious, someone whose presence is a gift. And here's the beautiful irony. When you operate from self-value, you don't fear losing anyone. You understand that you bring something unique and irreplaceable to the table. You know that if someone walks away, it's not a reflection of your worth, it's a reflection of their inability to see it. And that knowledge gives you a kind of freedom, a kind of fearlessness that makes you even more desirable.